Hi Fox, how you doing? Today I'm gonna start the coverage of the European Individual Chess Championship, which is being held in Yerevan, the capital city of Armenia, worldly famous for its chess players like the former world champion Tigran Petrosyan, to whose memory is dedicated this tournament, by the way, and of course Levon Aronian. So the tournament started a couple of days ago. They're already playing the fourth round today. And well, as always in these European individual championships, there are hundreds of players playing there, with dozens of very strong GMs, 26, 26, 1500 plus rated. So well, there are a bunch of very strong GMs playing interesting games. So I'll try to make as many videos possible explaining and analyzing as best as I can games from this tournament. So the first one I selected is from the round one. In this round, one of the favorites for the title, to be in the top place, is Laurent Fressinet from France. Is playing with black pieces against Robert Kreisl from Germany. So let's go. Fressinet is black, as I said. We got a couple of moves till we reach a Queen's Gambit declined. Typical position. Here Knight c3 is played by Robert Kreisl, and Fressinet plays Bishop b4, introducing the Ragozin defense against the Queen's Gambit. Quite active and unpredictable choice for black. Interesting defense. Bishop g5, and now Knight bd7. So white can afford to play this move, as the pawn on d5 now it's not threatened. After exchange, the knight cannot take, because obviously the bishop on b4 is pinning it. So white plays c takes, e takes, and e3, trying to develop normally, to put the bishop out and castle and whatever. And here, well, Fressinet deviates from the most common lines here, from the most common moves. The absolutely normal move here, played thousands of times, is c5, striking into the center. And well, let us take a look at a couple of possible lines here, because it may be interesting to pick up this defense as black. Bishop d3 is the main move, and now very interesting, Queen a5, playing active, going after the, well, making white feel the pressure here on the diagonal with this pin. Queen c2 is the main move. It's interesting to see this short castle move. It seems that black is winning the pawn, but in fact, if black goes ahead and takes it, white takes the pawn back with lots of initiative. If bishop takes, queen takes, now rook c1, and white is going to have lots of activity picking the pawn back on c5, so this is better for white. Instead, queen c2 is much more common, and now c4, bishop f5, short castle, and well, hundreds of GM games from this position, and maybe an interesting choice to pick up against d4. Interesting and active defense than conventional Queen's Gambit declined. So as I said, that instead of playing this c5, which is the main move here, the main line, Fressinet plays h6, somewhat a little more obscure line, h6. Of course, bishop h4. I mean, if you take, queen's developing, you're giving out the bishop pair. No, it doesn't make that much sense. So g5. Actually, nobody less than Levon Aronian played this move against Lisi in 2013 World Cup to win, and ended up winning that game. He was black there, Aronian, but very few games in this line. So I mean, I guess it's playable, but black is damaging too much his king side, so this is very risky and very aggressive choice for black. Bishop g3, and now knight d4, and well, the knight is absolutely well placed there, attacking the bishop, attacking the knight, pinned knight on c3, and if black hadn't damaged his king side so much, his position would be absolutely perfect, but you can't have it all. Here, a very tough choice here. I mean, rook c1 I guess could be played, or queen c2, but white plays very brave and very courageous. He plays a good move, knight d2. He's attacking the knight on e4, and at the same time he's giving up the pawn on c3 with good reasons, as we will see. Another option, I think it was queen a4, attacking the bishop, and now bishop takes and knight takes. And now, well, it's advisable here to castle. If black takes the pawn, queen a5, black is recovering the pawn, and white is recovering the pawn, and black has to move the knight once again. The queen is attacking c7, d5, c3, so this is much better for white. Instead, black should probably castle here, bishop d3, well, with a playable position, but the problem for black, of course, it's this moves h6, g5 have weakened his king side too much, maybe. So instead, knight d2, another interesting move, and here, in fact, Fressinet doesn't take the pawn, he plays knight takes g3. So let us take a look what would happen in a couple of cases where black decides to take the pawn on c3. So first, let us take a look of knight takes c3, b takes, bishop takes. This is certainly looking, seems to be the better way to take the pawn on c3. Now you're attacking the rook on a1, rook c1, bishop a5. Now bishop d3. It is important to play knight f6 here to guard these important squares, light squares on h5, mainly because otherwise the queen would get in with dangerous attack. If instead, knight f6 and castle c6, and white has compensation, but it's not clear who's better here. But it's a pawn down. White is has it compensated, but I'm not sure if I would pick up white here. Otherwise, as I said, instead of knight f6, if castle, this would be a little bit careless because white has a lot of initiative, good-looking, promising attack here, h4, and well, the h file, if opened, would be very, very dangerous. The bishop is absolutely well placed on the light square. The queen could get in through h5, so this looks very, very, very dangerous for black. There was another way of taking that pawn. It was probably much worse to take first with the bishop and then with the knight, as now queen c2, the bishop, the knight cannot go back to many places. In fact, the only place it can go back to it's e4, and now white takes the pawn back, knight takes, queen takes, with check. Black will probably have to move his king. So white has bishop pair and much better pawn structure. These pawns could be weak on the king side in the future, so this is much better for white. Instead, Fressinet well took on g3, h takes g3. Now white has this h file open. It could be an issue sometimes. Fressinet plays knight b6. Now it's letting the bishop play on c8, and is guarding a couple of important squares on c4 and a4. Queen b3, attacking the bishop, and the bishop correctly goes back to f8. Fressinet feels that it will be important to relocate the bishop to g7 to control the big diagonal. And now e4, following the rules, the basics. If you have a better development, the center opening should favor you. So white player is trying to open the center with e4 as he has a better development. D takes e4 was played. Instead, was interesting to sacrifice a pawn for development for black. Bishop g7 and e takes d5, queen e7 check, bishop e2, bishop f5, and well, an interesting position, really unbalanced. Instead, d takes e4, knight on d takes, and now bishop g7. Of course, the pawn on d4 could be taken at once, but doesn't seem advisable to take the queen out so early, without completing development. So rook d1, and it may be a little bit uncomfortable for black, even though it's probably still playable, but maybe too provocative. Queen there, bishop e2. Black must be a little bit careful, I think, because the queen is in the center, but still playable position. Bishop g7 was played, now long castle, and well, White has a nice position in my opinion, very decent prospect. He's already castled the rook in a very nice file. The d pawn could be dangerous if advanced in good conditions. He has a couple of nice knights. The queen is looking good. The bishop will get out. The h file. So this is looking really nice for white. I mean, black is not lost, of course. He has all his position. He has his possibilities, but this is not looking bad at all for white. Black castles, and now f4. It's pretty much clear that white will attack on the king side. It is what he must do. So f4, well, more or less good, not a bad decision to try to open up the king side. Now bishop g4 was played, attacking the rook. If g takes, bishop g4 once again. Well, maybe could maybe transposition or giving some extra options to white. Anyway, bishop g4 at first looks very reasonable, and here a very brave decision by Robert Kreisl, playing against a 27 plus 100 GM. He sacrifices material for the attack. He plays f takes g5. I mean, otherwise the engine is suggesting bishop e2, bishop takes, knight takes, and now the point is queen d5. Black is absolutely equalizing here if white doesn't exchange the queens, giving black a very nice position. In fact, it is black who could be better here. Otherwise, queen c2, white is giving up his pawn on a2, and this is not. I mean, this is discouraging, because you had such a nice position, and now you're even down a pawn, and your structure is not looking good at all. So very bravely, very nice way, white sacrifices the exchange. F takes g5, very brave. Well, Fressinet takes on d1, and now queen takes d1. Queen takes on d4. Notes this diagonal, this threat black has always in this, over this b pawn. This will be a source of counterplay for black. And well, in this position, engines recommend to take a pawn for the exchange and go for the endgame, even though it may be a little bit better for black, but still unclear. They recommend to take on h6, and then queen takes, knight takes, bishop must go away to d4 maybe, and well, unclear position here, an unbalanced endgame, and the player with the better skills, with better positional understanding, probably will win this game. But a very interesting endgame here. Instead, Kreisl went for the attack with queen h5. He's hoping to checkmate black. And well, objectively speaking, this is much better for black, but still, in an over-the-board game, everything could happen. This is a very dangerous position for black. This rook and queen on the open h file seem very dangerous. But of course, black has to ignore this pawn. He can never take it. He has to generate his own counterplay. And Fressinet doesn't fail here to prove he's a very strong GM. Rook f e8 he played. Now g takes h6 and rook takes e4. Very nice move. Instead, in fact, an only move to win for black. And objectively speaking, white is already lost here. What to do here? Well, a couple of options. H takes g7 doesn't seem to be nothing really special for white, as rook e1 check, king c2, and now the queen takes on g7, protecting both h8 and h7, and black is doing absolutely fine. He's up an exchange, and it's not clear whose king is better or worse in this case. Instead, another move was knight takes e4, but unfortunately for white, this fails to openings. This opens the diagonal for black, so now queen takes b2 check, king d1, rook d8 check, and black wins. White can already resign. So bishop d3 was played in this position, but anyway, objectively speaking, as I said, black is already winning. So now it's a matter of technique to finish this early, and Fressinet does it in a couple of moves. Queen e3 check, king c2, queen f2 check. And now where to go with the king? Well, white went to b1. If king b3 check, an interesting, very nice way of finishing this is rook b4 check, sacrificing the rook. King takes b4, queen takes b2 check, king c5, and this is going to be checkmate. In the center, very nice. If otherwise, if knight e2, rook a e8, and even if white takes on e4, the knight on e2 is pinned, and if king d1, now bishop takes h6, because if queen takes h6, black can take the knight with a check, so he's in time to give a check and not be checkmated. King c1, queen e3 check, exchanging the queens and being a piece ahead, so this endgame is ridiculous for white to play. But well, anyway, here it was already very difficult, so king b1 was played here, but after rook e1 check, rook takes, queen takes, king c2, queen f2 check, king b3, bishop f6. He just gets out of the way with the bishop. White gave another check on g4. Of course, if h7 check, now king g7, there is nothing else for white left. So after queen g4 check, king f8, white resigned. He's down a rook for a pawn without anything serious to compensate it. I mean, what can you do here? h7 doesn't make any sense because the bishop is guarding h8, so white is basically lost. He got lost in this tactical mess which arose in the middle game, but still a very brave game to play against a 2700 plus rated GM. So nice way to start this European Individual Championship for Fressinet. Let us see if we can find more interesting games in this tournament in Armenia, Yerevan, and hope you like the video.